So this morning, I'm going to address a question that came in from Deborah Armstrong, who asked, we've had to make many changes due to the challenges of COVID and the economy. How do I know when it's time to cut people from my team? Okay, this is a big question, Deborah, and one that depends on a lot of dynamics that I don't know about your business and the quality of the people on your team. All I can suggest with this little information is to test them, kind of like God asked Gideon to test his troops. There's a story from the Bible that went something like this. So there's this guy, Gideon, and he's selected by God to be the leader of the Israelites and to free the people of Israel from those who had turned to idol worship. Gideon had recruited men from 4 tribes in order to meet an armed force of the mighty Midianites. But God told Gideon that the men he had gathered were too many. And Gideon asked, well, what should I do? And God said, try this. Get the 32,000 troops together and give them your last, final, and ringing speech. Give them a real barn burner, God said, something like that. We're off to fight the Midianites, something like that. And he said, when you finish the speech, finish it like this. Now that we're off to fight, if there's anybody here that is afraid and you think we're about to lose this battle upcoming with the Midianites, you can be excused at this time. Go home. We can't use you this time. Gideon said, clever. I should have thought of that myself. So Gideon gets the 32,000 troops together. He gets up on high ground and he gives his last ringing speech. And he says, we're off to fight. But if there's anybody here who thinks we're going to lose, you can be excused at this time. You can just go home. We're just going to take who's left. And sure enough, some of the men went home. Guess how many went home? 22,000. Gideon watches this and says, wow. Hey, if you got 32,000 and 20,000 think you're going to lose, guess what? You're probably going to lose. You've got too many. There's a big key to leadership here. Sometimes you have too many. When you recruit in haste, it's possible that you recruit some cowards. So you might ask, well, why is that? I don't know. It's just one of those things. When you're moving too fast, sometimes there's no telling you who you collect during those harried times. So this is a big part of the leadership test. Find out who thinks you're gonna lose and excuse them. You can't afford to keep the naysayers around. They will cost you the battle. During the Indispensable broadcast, I told you about the story of our hero, Lynn Wallace. Lynn is the founder of a boutique insurance agency in Santa Rosa, California. Her company had been on a great growth trajectory in the early 2000s. Lynn borrowed $1 million from a bank to fund her rapid expansion. Then the financial meltdown of 2008 and 2009 happened. The following year, her revenues dropped by more than half. Her financial controller repeatedly told Lynn that the situation was hopeless and she soon would be broke. The financial controller had a reputation for being negative, but now this negativity was toxic to the team's ability to pull themselves upward from this situation. Lynn had to make the hard decision to excuse her. She let her go. So Gideon now gets the 10,000 that are left. He says, no problem, we'll do it with 10,000. Then God says, well, you still got too many. Gideon says, well, what now? And God says, try this. March the 10,000 till they're hot and thirsty. Take them down to the river for a drink. All those who kneel down to drink, setting aside their spear and shield, and put their hands to their mouths, with them you excuse. Those men are careless. You cannot trust them. You cannot use them. All those who keep their spear and shield ready and lap the water with their tongues like a dog laps, those you keep. Those are the ones you want because they're trained and ready to go. Gideon says, so clever. And he marches the 10,000 till they're hot and thirsty and takes them down to the river. Sure enough, when he gets to the river, some are hot and careless and they just throw down their spear and shield and jump straight into the water. Guess how many? The number was 9,700. This is a big part of the leadership test. You see, when you recruit in haste, sometimes you recruit too many. It's easy to accidentally recruit the careless, those who could cost you the battle. So Gideon says, you 9,700 are excused, and he sent them home dripping wet. Now he's got 300 left. Gideon says, okay, no problem. From 32,000 to 300, and he's still willing to try. That is what's called courageous leadership. So as the story goes, Gideon plans a night attack. He gave each of his men a trumpet and a clay jar with a torch hidden inside, divided them into 3 companies. Gideon and his 300 men marched down on the enemy camp. He instructed them to blow the trumpet, give a battle cry, and light the torches, simulating an attack by a large force. When they do, the Midianite army flees in fright, and Gideon becomes the military hero of the day. Oh, by the way, if you were wondering what happened to Lynn Wallace after firing the financial controller who said that she was destined to end up broke, well, Lynn grew her agency from the 18 employees that she started with to over 140 and successfully sold her agency for well more than $50 million, 10 times more than the revenue she had before she had first met us at a High Performance Forum Business Masterclass. You see, I am a big believer in containing a small but mighty team. I believe and have proven time and time again that quality beats quantity every time. Most enterprises in our industry, the one that I operate in, at our revenue size, have about 150 to 200 plus employees. We have about 20, and I guarantee our margins, team engagement, and the impact that we have in the world is far, far greater. Now, mind you, to get the 20 badasses that we have, we've brought in and washed out many dozens more. Only the best survive on our A team, and those who do freaking thrive. You see, learning to recruit the right people is one of the most important skills of a leader. But equally important, often more important, because most leaders are not courageous enough to do the right thing by their team, is learning to excuse those who might be doubtful, cowardly, or careless. Those who left the fight are likely to cost you the war, your mission, the future of your enterprise. So there's two places that I can point you to learn the specific practices here to help you identify the right players for your unique team that I would suggest. Okay, first off is Hero's Journey. And then to know when and how to properly excuse those who need to go, I would refer you to the High Performance Forum. And jot down your learnings and what struck you today from what we talked about in your Darren Daily Journal, and then share your thoughts with us in the comments below.